Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast, episode 38 for February 24th, 2017. Hey everybody, Daniel Rubino here, joined with Zach Bowden for another exciting episode, as we hope it's exciting. No promises. Episode of the Windows Central Podcast for the last week of February, where it is 70 degrees here in Boston, which I don't know what that is in Celsius, but it's exceptionally and ridiculously warm for winter for me, but that's okay. This week, we're going to talk about a new build for Windows 10 on PC and mobile that came out for those on the Insider program, as well as my Latitude review to 7280. Zach's going to tell us about the Stream 11 from HP. We'll talk about the Twitter update because we haven't had one for a couple weeks now, and we always get a little worried with these UWP apps and where they're going, but it's actually a really nice update. We'll talk about Minecraft making its triumphant return to Windows 10 Mobile for the 10 users who are left using it. I kid, of course. And then I want to talk a little bit about Killer Wireless because I had a really good call this week with a company. I'm new to wireless technology as far as the differences between like Intel and Killer and Broadcom before they apparently ditched wireless for PCs. They still make them for Macs, but I'm going to talk a little bit about that technology and then also give you guys a little preview of some of the stuff we're working on for next week. A lot of hardware reviews as all those new PCs are starting to hit from CES. So exciting stuff. Zach, how are you doing today?
I'm not too bad. We should probably explain why we're a little bit late for the live listeners. Skype sucks. That's why.
Well, so we're going to figure this out. So in fairness, we're not normal cases. The working theory is, and is a very plausible theory, is that I have a lot of devices connected right now to the internet that are Windows 10, including mobile. So probably 3 Windows 10 mobile phones. I think I had 2 iPhones on, and probably, I gotta guess, probably about 5 or 6 PCs. And I think at some point, Skype, Zach would try to call me, and I couldn't call him. So all my phones would ring, but not the PC I was on. And I tried to call him, and it wasn't ringing, and it just went like that for a little while. I'm actually using Skype for desktop right now, which is kind of old school, but hey, it worked. And I ended up turning off a bunch of devices. So we're not 100% sure what caused that, but it was definitely, it was entertaining if you were watching, frustrating if you're being a participant, but...
Oh well, we're here now and that's all that matters. We should dive into our first story. New Windows Insider builds for Windows 10 and Windows 10 Mobile. Now, we're at that point in development in which Microsoft are kind of polishing things, signing off on things, and just kind of getting the product ready for general release. So what that means is today's Insider builds aren't very feature-filled. They're mostly bug fixes and performance enhancements, which is absolutely fine. I would much rather Microsoft spend the next 5 weeks fixing bugs than adding new features that are broken. Anyhow, this new build includes a couple noteworthy changes. For one, the Cortana animation in the out-of-box experience, the setup experience when you're setting up a Windows 10 PC for the first time, has a new animation, which is very nice. Again, echoes
Who's going to restart their reboot just to witness that?
Yeah, well,
yeah,
I mean,
kind of funny.
It's all that polish. That's kind of the whole point with these new builds now. Also, I think I saw someone mention on Twitter that this build doesn't have a time bomb or the watermark anymore, which does mean we are at that point in which Microsoft are compiling builds as if they were RTM. Obviously, for those of you who don't know, the RTM build doesn't have a time bomb, doesn't have the watermark on the desktop, and that's because they're, the version of Windows that goes out to everybody. Normal people don't need to know the build number, and normal people don't really want to be running a version of Windows that will eventually expire. So these builds from here on out won't expire, so you could technically install 15042 and use that forever if you wanted, although I don't recommend it.
I will say, I think I mentioned this before, my Service Pro 4 did have the time bomb, and I think it went off because when I turn it on now, I just get a black screen and something telling me some file has expired. I can't even get to Windows. I can't do anything. I got to sit down and figure that out, which means I got to create a bootable USB drive. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Just reinstall. It's easy. Then the other changes include in Edge, you now get a pop-up when the Flash plugin is requesting to be used. So if you don't know, Microsoft Edge no longer automatically plays Flash content on a web page unless you click on the content itself. But now there'll also be a pop-up.
Chrome does that now too. I just discovered.
It's a safety feature. It's to help you, keep you protected.
I think this is really funny. Just Opera doesn't even have Flash installed. It's just there's no Flash. You just can't use that browser for anything that's Flash. But yeah, now Chrome and Edge at least now give you that pop-up warning. So
yeah. And finally, Microsoft Edge, more improvements when locally saved EPUB books in Microsoft Edge on PC. A book icon will now be used in place of the previous generic in the tab bar. So basically, like I said, lots more polish for all of the areas in Windows 10, such as Edge, for example. Also, I just noticed Microsoft Edge hasn't jumped many versions in this release. With between Threshold 1, 2, and Redstone 1, it jumped like 40 versions. But now it jumped 38 versions, I think. But from Redstone 1 to Redstone 2, it's only jumped 2 versions. That says something, I guess. And then everything else is just bug fixes and improvements under the hood and stuff. So, for example, the Windows Update dialog is no longer broken. It should look and function as expected now, which is great.
I'm more
news.
excited about settings being fixed.
Yeah, Bluetooth works again, which is fantastic. Although Bluetooth technically wasn't broken unless you was on mobile.
Yeah, but the settings app was like, it would crash. It was hard to get into it and everything. So that's also fixed for mobile.
Yeah, and regarding changes, features for mobile, absolutely nothing. So if you
there's a lot of there's fixes for mobile.
No, yeah, like I said, these are all of these huge list of fixes. We're not going to go through it all because we'll be here forever. Right. But so polish, fix Windows 10. I'll tell you what, the latest Windows 10 mobile builds are really nice. They are very stable.
And I encourage people, we talked about this before, you should at some point probably do a hard reset of your device, roll it back, and then jump right into the latest fast ring. That experience, and that's what Zach did, and that's why he's saying this. And it's true, when you do this, it's like, I had someone tell me the Actel Idle is terrible on fast ring. I'm like, I'm using it right now. It's awesome. I have no issue because I went direct to the latest ring. So at some point, do that if you really want a good experience, and it'll probably be a little bit better. Yeah.
I also recommend that you do the reset back to production, then you upgrade to Insider, then you do another reset on the Insider build, because then it's a completely clean slate.
Wow, that's so hardcore. Even I didn't do that.
Oh yeah, no, I do that. I do that quite often as well. My life consists of reinstalling Windows.
OCD.
I do it every week. I'm like reinstalling Windows again. It makes me so sad. Anyway, that's pretty much it for all the new builds. It's a nice release at this point. Lots of fixes, which is always a good thing. And then, of course, news, although we didn't write about it, Windows 10 Redstone 3 builds are now being compiled. They have been for a little while, I believe, but now they're starting to reach the RS... No, they're really... the new builds are being compiled, and they should eventually be rolling out to insiders in April, I believe, because if the Redstone 2... If the Creators Update is coming out in April, then it shouldn't be too long between the release of Redstone 2 and the first Redstone 3 builds for insiders. Not saying that they'll include...
It might even be at the end of March. We've heard some flexibility on these dates.
Yes. It's obviously they don't pinpoint a certain date until it's ready, of course. They want it out by the end of April. I'm sure it'll be before the end of April, but before build is generally what they're trying to hit here.
I've heard some marketing is dragging their feet on getting some assets from Xbox team. But maybe they'll get around to that. But yeah, so we're still on target, looks like, for sometime in mid-April for this release, which should be, I guess, exciting. Actually, we forgot to put this in there in the show notes, but can talk about actually real quickly. Groove and Movies and TV app are also updated. And we're finally starting to see some new features creep back into these apps. So Groove got a really cool one, which is share a playlist to social networks and stuff like that, which is actually kind of neat. So if you created a playlist or you had Groove manufacture one for you using the Your Groove feature, you can now click on it, share it to Facebook, share it to Twitter. Now, of course, this presumes the person also uses Groove, which gets into that weird, who's on what. But what's kind of neat about this, Microsoft has a little unfair advantage. The more people get onto Windows 10, the more they have a Groove app on their PC, and the more they're going to be, someone sends them a link, they click it, hopefully they get trapped into the Groove system. I use Groove. I'm actually a big fan of it. Now, I've actually never tried Spotify, but I'm mostly 90% my own music, 10% curated, like Your Groove and stuff. But yeah, you can share a playlist, you click it, and you have to have the app update to do this. But if you get the link and you click it, then it basically gives you that playlist right into your computer, which is kind of cool, or your phone. That's a nice little feature. They also introduced now the ability, if you do not have, obviously you need a Groove Pass to fully play that music. It's not free, but now you can basically listen to 30-second clips of those songs in that playlist for all users, which is a kind of a neat, thing. Obviously, no one wants to get like a playlist and then just be like, I can't play a single thing here at all. Obviously, it's done to get more people, I think, into the Groove ecosystem. But nice little update. Also, movies and TV, or as you call them, I believe in the UK, film and TV.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know why. I mean, I also call them movies, but oh well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a joke I make here in the US because film is so much highfalutin. It's like, I don't watch movies, I watch films. And it's just like, it's a different caliber. It's like I watch indie kind of things. But anyway, the app has now the overlay feature, which is only available if you're in the Insider program because you're running Redstone 2 is contingent upon that. What this is, it's basically windowed mode. You can have a little tiny like picture-in-picture on your desktop so you can multitask while watching a movie at work or at home. I don't want to encourage people. But yeah, kind of neat. I haven't actually got to try this yet. Have you tried it?
I have not. I don't have time to watch films on my PC.
Not even for a few seconds.
I mean, I don't really know any apps apart from the films and the movies and TV app that supports it. I mean, it's still very early in availability, so not many developers have adopted it. I mean, I can see it working out for things like Skype, where you can just like be on a video call and just have them. Because I think the desktop app already does that. I'm using the desktop app right now, and you get this little window at the top right of the screen, which is very nice, and that's essentially what this compact overlay window is. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more developers taking advantage of it, if they take advantage of it, because developers have been known to kind of just not take advantage of Windows 10 APIs.
It's also a very specific kind of feature, so I don't think a lot of apps could benefit from it, but it's nice to see at least some of these new features coming to those kind of core apps. I'm a huge fan of Groove. I use Groove literally every day, mostly at the gym, and I just really like it. It's even better than on the iPhone and Android. So in a case where people are like, Microsoft's apps are always better on other platforms, I would raise a finger and say Groove is actually better. Now, I mean, they look very similar. iPhone finally caught up in a lot of features, like with Your Groove, they finally added that. But in terms of just the actual functionality, I just like the way it flows better in Windows 10, which is, something you kind of expect. But yeah, really, really good stuff to see that. It's still one of my favorite apps. That did get my vote for one of the most turned around apps last year by Microsoft, because that and Skype went from, oh God, to, wow, these are really good apps. These are really good experiences. And so it's kind of exciting to see, especially since for so long, people are like, Microsoft should just give up on Groove. Just give up, It's like, no, come on. It's the legacy of Zune. The spirit lives on.
Yeah.
But yeah, good stuff. Should we go into Twitter or?
We can jump straight into Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, because it kind of makes sense of the software. So Twitter. So one of our colleagues here at Mobile Nation made fun of us for basically being real excited about this Twitter app, but it's actually a really good Twitter app. It's nice to see a first-party app that. This is the point where now the official Twitter app for me is in a lot of ways better than the third-party apps. And we couldn't say that, recently, up to, even for the last few years. Third-party apps have been, I don't mean to slight the third-party apps. There's some very good ones out there that are extremely powerful. And if you need that, absolutely, Tweet It, I still think is one of the better ones. There's a new, I believe Fennis is coming out with a new update pretty soon too. But the official app, which is what most people would, get exposed to right away, is actually a really good experience. Now, it still crashes more than I would like, which is a little bit frustrating. But this week they introduced a few new features. So you can now DM a tweet to someone, which is kind of neat. So if you see a tweet and you like that, you can just basically hit this little DM icon and just directly send it to someone, which is really kind of convenient. There is also now the option for an emoji picker, which some people will be like, wait, that doesn't make sense. But it was a huge frustration point for me. So if you're on a PC, especially when it's not a touch screen, and you use the Twitter app, you couldn't do emoji. And it was really annoying because you would see everybody else using emoji on Twitter, and they're always kind of fun. And there was just no way to do it. If you're on a touch PC, you could kind of do it by bringing up the keyboard, the software keyboard. Now, if you're on mobile, of course, it's just built right there. It's built right into the keyboard. So what they did was on the desktop version, you can basically bring up the little emoji thing and pick and send it, and it's just super convenient. My top feature, though, is the ability just to copy paste images directly into a new tweet. So before, if you wanted to put an image into a tweet, you had to save it and then upload it to the composer. Now you can just go Control-C on an image in a web page and Control-V into the tweet window, and it'll directly paste. And again, for some non-power users, not a huge deal. For someone like me who's always sharing things, it's actually like such a time saver because it was dumb having to save an image that you just want to share with other people. But pretty exciting stuff overall. And I think the biggest thing, of course, is for desktop tabs. So this is a really great feature that, as far as I know, it's not on anything else. Now, it's not on mobile, which doesn't really make much sense due to spacing, but it's very much like TweetDeck, where you can now create custom columns. And I believe it's only up to 4. And it's kind of experimental. In fact, you even have a little window thing asking, do you like this feature? And you can like hit I heart it and send it to them with feedback. But I know a lot of people were very happy about this because you could put custom searches up there. You could put specific people and just have their streams there and just hop between it. I thought it was a pretty creative feature, and it seems to be extremely popular. Everybody I've talked to seems to enjoy it.
I'm having some odd issues with the new Twitter app because I received it yesterday on my Insider Build phone, and obviously it doesn't have the tab feature, but it has some nice fixes and it's a lot faster. And the other improvements are really nice on mobile. Then I uninstalled the app and reinstalled the app, but it reinstalled the old version. And now I don't have the new one anymore. I don't understand what the issue is here.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second, just because it is kind of weird. The rollout for this has been very strange. I saw it happening about 2 nights ago. Someone was mentioning about the tabs. I was like, I'm not seeing this update. And now sometimes there are fast ring app updates. This wasn't the case, though, for that. It was a very strange rollout. It took almost 48 hours. I had cases where some of my PCs got it, some of my other PCs did not get it, same thing with my phones. And it was just like no rhyme or reason. I still don't know what that was about. I think most people have gotten it now, but as you mentioned, you're still in that weird zone. So something happened with that rollout. Someone, brought up, is it hard to promote? The app crashes. It crashes, but I'm not saying it crashes a lot. It's just... It also depends how much you're using it. I use it pretty aggressively with lots of embeds and everything like that, but it's not enough for me not to use it. And on my phone, it doesn't really crash. So no, but the overall experience, it's so fast. That's what's really nice about the scrolling on it is really good. And I just like the way it looks. I think it just looks, I think it's one of the best Twitter apps, official Twitter apps out there. I mean, if you use the iOS one and one on Android, they're okay. But something about the scaling and everything, I think they did a really nice job with it. So
yeah, I mean, it's always nice to see developers taking Windows 10 seriously, and as a result, taking Windows 10 Mobile seriously. Even if it's not directly for Windows 10 Mobile, we still get the updates and some of the features, which is always fantastic. Speaking of Windows 10 apps, Minecraft on Windows 10 Mobile. Now, we were kind of teasing this for a little while. We were told like 4 weeks ago that the Minecraft for Windows 10 Mobile was on its way. So when the app was pulled, it wasn't really like, oh no, because it wasn't long after before we realized, oh yeah, Microsoft are actually going to be bringing Minecraft back, but with full Windows 10 Mobile support. And what that means is we now get to play cross-platform between phones and Windows 10 edition. So if you're on a Windows 10 PC, you can play with somebody that's playing Minecraft on Windows 10 phone and vice versa. You get Xbox Live achievements, Xbox Live integration even, Realm support, all the updates that the Windows 10 edition gets, the Windows 10 Mobile edition gets also, which is fantastic because it's, again, feature parity. No longer is Windows 10 Mobile being left behind in this regard. Minecraft will now always be updated on that platform as well. And that's really great news. I'm not a big fan of gaming on mobile, but I know some people are. And yesterday, if you tuned into MGL, our weekly gaming show, we played Minecraft on Windows Phone, me and Jez, and Dan was there too, kind of. And basically, I played it through Continuums. It is a universal app. I was able to launch the app from my Windows Phone start screen on a monitor and stream that directly to Beam, and people could see me playing normal Minecraft on a Lumia 950, and it was kind of amazing. And I'm pretty sure it's the first ever with Minecraft Let's Play on a Windows Phone, which I'm proud of owning that, by the way.
Can we also share what the code name for this app was?
Go ahead. I don't even know it.
Oh, come on. You don't remember?
No.
It was shared? It was actually called the Jez Corden edition.
Oh, yeah, I did.
by the employees at Minecraft who were making it. Which I just thought was...
Because Jez loves his Lumia so much, that's why, which is adorable. But the Jez Corden edition of Minecraft is now available on the Windows Store. If you owned the previous version of the Minecraft Pocket Edition app on Windows Phone 8.1, you get this for free. If you didn't, you can buy it for like $7. It's not expensive at all. I mean, most people own Minecraft anyway at this point, so it's a good little game to play on the go. It's it's got touch controls. It also supports the PC UI as well. So if you are playing through Continuum, you can switch it into that mode, and it works like you would expect. And you know what? It's the power of Continuum really blows my mind away. It does. Just yesterday when I was playing Minecraft as if it was the PC version on my phone, I couldn't believe it. It's like, wow. And it was a little bit choppy here and there, but that's because the Lumia 50 isn't the most powerful phone in the world.
Right.
But it's
Let's talk about a little bit about how some people had an issue with this, that this isn't a true UWP, or, I mean, it is a UWP, but it's not the same app as the Windows 10 edition. Do we know some of the reason for that? I believe Jez does, actually.
I believe the reason is because, for one, the Pocket Edition is for phones, right? Windows 10 edition is more for PCs, and that also means those who own the Pocket Edition previously can get this for free, whereas if it was part of the Windows 10 edition, if you had purchased the Pocket Edition, you wouldn't have purchased the Windows 10 edition, therefore they're separate licenses, you would have to pay for both. I think that may be one of the reasons why they housed it under the Pocket Edition. And secondly, it doesn't really matter, since they play together, they play together, got the same achievements, same Xbox Live integration. You can get the achievements twice, because the Windows 10 edition lists the same achievements, and then the phone edition lists the same achievements as well, but they're like separate, so you can unlock them both and get double gamer score, which is always a benefit. But I don't really see why they would need to be the exact same app, because if they play together and are going to get updates at the same time, they are technically just two different SKUs of the same game anyway. It's like, here's our game, split into two, and just release it like that.
Yeah, and plus the desktop edition has some other features like hardware integration with your GPU and stuff. Like the desktop edition can actually scale up to pretty high resolutions and do some pretty crazy things that you can't do on phone. Now, presumably they could maybe, do that for phone, but there's I think probably a lot more work in there. I just want to address something Greg's Edwards, but isn't UWP supposed to go from PC to mobile, etc.? No. I've talked about this numerous times, and it's really a confusing thing. Part of it's on Microsoft, but UWP does not mean universal for consumers, that it's going to play on every device. It's the libraries that the app is built off are universal. And that's what it is. It's a developer term. It means that the core aspects of the app all pull from the same thing. The end product, though, doesn't mean it has to or supposed to run across all devices. It's up to the developer to enable that and let that happen. But that's why some apps only run on PC, some on mobile, some on HoloLens, some on Surface Hub. For the most part, the libraries are universal, and there isn't much recoding needed or other assets needed to bring it to mobile, but there is stuff that needs to be done. It's not a deploy, write once, deploy everywhere scenario. It's getting close to that. That is the long-term goal, but it's not there right now. Like, there's no reason to think that they could just allow this to go to mobile. It's probably, I didn't even compare the app sizes. It's probably a lot bigger for a PC as well, for considering all the assets and how high it can scale up. And this issue about how, I think with games, it's going to a little bit matter depending on how much it can do. But there's also the different paths, and also some companies just want to have two SKUs. They want to have just two different apps for whatever reason. So it's really up to the developers to do. Microsoft encourages, obviously, to deploy everywhere as much as possible, but it's not necessarily the case. So when you think of universal, UWP apps, Universal Windows Phone apps, or Universal Windows Store apps, it's the libraries that are universal. It doesn't mean the app is supposed to run everywhere. It can. It's just, that's a big distinction. Yeah, I mean, and then, they mentioned it feels disjointed. I agree. I mean, it's a marketing issue, and this is where, it gets confusing because of the way developer terms work and how consumers, perceive things. Even with Windows 10 and Windows 10 Mobile, they're different, but they're the same. So there's a lot of this overlap stuff. The good news is going forward, it's only become, that stuff will go away. As we mentioned, last podcast with Windows 10 Mobile, it looks to be very much fading into getting merged right into Windows 10. And Zach and I could talk more about that part in the next couple of weeks because Zach and I have seen some things. But so that's that explanation.
Should we move on to your review?
Oh, sure. Let's see. We're 25 minutes in. Yeah. So, good issue here is business laptops. Now, I usually shy away from business laptops because I don't work in enterprise. But I have to admit, one thing that I've noticed over the last few years is companies like HP and Dell, especially. Lenovo has always been Lenovo. They've always kind of done their, ThinkPad stuff. But HP and Dell have been taking a lot of their premium consumer line stuff and merging it into their enterprise line. So if you look at HP, they have their G2 line, which is, the premium stuff for enterprise. And Dell does the same thing with Latitude. And so I got to review the 7280, which is it doesn't have the most sexy name, but it's meant for companies to deploy. It's a 12.5-inch device, but it's basically the XPS 13. It's just meant to be ruggedized. So it's Miltech spec, so you can drop this thing. It can withstand extreme temperatures and all that. Now, it only has a 12.5-inch display instead of the 13.3-inch display that's found in the XPS 13. That's because you don't get the Infinity Edge, which wouldn't make sense in such a device like this. In fact, behind this display is a piece of aluminum that's supposed to protect it and all this kind of stuff. But really nice device. It's actually one of the best keyboards they built. I'm actually a little upset that keyboard is not in the XPS 13 or the XPS 15. It has to do mostly with the travel. It's 1.7 millimeter, which is actually quite a lot for a laptop. But this thing is so tiny. It's 2.8 pounds. It's super light, super thin. It feels great to hold. It has optional facial recognition through IR cameras on the front. It has a fingerprint scanner, which I didn't love. I like the design of it, but the functionality was not as good as the XPS 15, which uses a more higher-end Synaptics fingerprint reader. But overall, and the battery life of this thing is incredible. I mean, this thing gets like over 10 hours. And it's just like, it's kind of neat to have a device that you could just work on and like bang out Excel things, work in Word, productivity things. And the performance of it is good too. And it's one of those laptops, you can scale it anywhere. You can get a Core i3, Core i5, Core i7. You can get up to 512 gigs of storage, up to 16 gigs of RAM. And there's all these different configurations. And that stuff's super important because when companies buy these things, they, if you're in IT and your task is to buy laptops, you have a certain budget. So you need to make that budget work for what you need. So this allows those, IT departments basically to cut some corners. Maybe they don't need 16 gigs of RAM. They could just get 8, which probably for most people is fine. But overall, it's a really impressive. I'm almost tempted to get one myself just because for me, this is a great device for if you're on an airplane, if you're just away often, you just need to like write and work. It's really nice. And coming in March is a mobile SIM option, which will allow you to get LTE speeds basically anywhere, which is kind of cool too.
Why would you get this over the XPS 13, even as a business user?
I mean, so the XPS 13, as nice it is, it's fragile, and there's no doubt about it. I mean, first of all, there's a lot of metal in it, and I know from experience, I've banged it before, and the corners of it will just bend. It broke my heart last year when that happened. I was able to bend it back, but you could still see where the metal basically had some like damage to it, where from being bent. So it's very delicate. The display is also, going to be a lot more fragile. Having no bezel is, if you drop it, it's going to crack. And there's also the performance. So a lot of the other things with the Latitude is security things, smart card support, the special thing with NFC, things that, terms like vPro, things that consumers just don't even have any idea what it is or why they, it's not even that why they would need it. They don't need it. Different levels of encryption and stuff like that, or meeting certain security standards. That's all part of this laptop. To IT departments, enterprise, that's huge. To consumers, it doesn't matter. And these devices get more expensive. They start off pretty cheap, but as soon as you start speccing it up to what you would as a consumer like if 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gig SSD, that's PCIe. When you start doing that, all of a sudden this device now is going to cost over $2,000. It's going to cost a couple hundred more than a consumer version. That has to do with because it's rugged. It's built like super tough. This thing has got like a special chassis in it, and it's obviously meant to pass certain tests for dropping in extreme weather and all this kind of stuff. These are devices you give to employees, and it's supposed to last them 2 to 4 years. So it's a different class of device. And a consumer, though, wants a high-end premium thing. It's got to look nice and everything. It's a lot more eye candy. And so that's kind of difference here. But it's neat to see because when you put them next to each other, and I probably should have done a photo of it, but I kind of forgot. But like they literally, it's the same size device. You stack them on top of each other, same size, same hinge. Oh, the overall design is very much the same. So what they're doing is they're taking their cool aspects of the XPS line and then bringing it into their, enterprise line, which is a smart decision. It's a laptop that also doesn't draw attention, right? An XPS 13 in gold, you bring it to a room or something like that. It's like, okay, this guy's got a blinged out laptop. This thing is it's matte black, right? It's just like low profile. And some people want that. So different stuff. But we'll be doing, and it seemed to be a hit. A lot of people were happy. We're going a little more to business laptops. I have a few more that are coming, a few from Dell. We'll be doing HP as well. I know there's a lot of interest, including myself, with the EliteBook X360, which is super cool because it has this cool privacy screen where you hit a button and basically digitizes it so you can't read it from certain angles, which I think is really awesome. And of course, the device I'm super excited about is a Lenovo X1 Carbon in silver, which doesn't come out until I think March or something like that. So, but the X1 Carbon is legendary. And what I'm really excited because I have the old X1 Carbon from last year, but the one thing that bugged me about it was the touchpad. It physically feels good, but it wasn't precision. Guess what they did this year? Precision.
Yes. Always, I give props to any hardware maker who switches to precision. It's the future.
This device, actually, X1 Carbon, is super cool. It's not only precision drivers now, which I'm just so ecstatic about, because the hardware, the Lenovo X1 was always phenomenal, but so they fixed that. There's also no bloatware. They're selling it as a signature edition from Microsoft, which is one of the first times I'm seeing that happen, especially from a company like Lenovo. So you're getting a very, lean machine. It's going to have all sorts of cool options. It's their lightest and thinnest and all that kind of stuff. Plus, it's the first time it's coming in silver, which is, I know some people are going to, I saw some comments, people like, ThinkPads are only black, but I think it's cool they did silver. I think it's going to be kind of a big hit for them. So we'll be getting to those over the next few weeks.
I've never really been interested in ThinkPads. I don't know why. I just never caught on. Yes, I used to have one of the old ThinkPads. When they used to have the little dot mouse in the middle of the keyboard.
They still have that.
They still have that.
Oh, you're kidding me? Like you cannot get rid of that. Like that's like the mechanical keyboard thing. When you talk to people about the track point, like they're religious about it. I don't get it. I try the track point, and for me, it's weird.
Yeah.
But for people who use it, it's just like you just can't take it away from them. So yeah, it's still super popular. But it's the keyboard. The keyboard is just one of the best out there.
I guess so. But it's I look at them more as business laptops, which I guess they are, rather than consumer facing.
So yeah, this is always a thing where. As business laptops start to merge with the high-end consumer stuff, it has a fingerprint reader in there for Windows Hello. They got rid of the other big thing with this device is they really thinned out the bezels, which was always sort of a thing they never did in their enterprise line. But it's got very thin bezels now, and it's just they're very robust. They're very functional. I don't know. There are almost no frills, and yet they have their own frills that are unique to them, I think. And plus, I think it weighs like 2.5 pounds. And what I always liked about them is they're in the 14-inch range. 14-inch is such a unique range in laptops. And for me, it's the sweet spot. 13 is too small. 15, you start to get a little too big. But 14 is just like, super ideal.
Moving on to something smaller and cheaper, I reviewed the HP Stream 11 X360 this week. Now, I've always been a fan of HP's Stream line of devices because they were kind of the first to sort of fully adopt the cloud-first approach that Windows 8.1 was pushing and Windows 10 is continuing to push. So for those of you who don't know, the Stream devices are lightweight, low-cost HP laptops that have about 32 gigabytes of storage, usually nothing more than that. And the goal is that you're supposed to save everything to OneDrive or the cloud, and you're supposed to stream music via Groove or Spotify or whatever streaming services you use. You're not really supposed to download anything onto it other than Office and other apps such as that. But everything is supposed to come from the cloud. Now, I've always liked that idea, and I've actually bought a few HP Streams for family and friend members over the years. I bought my girlfriend's mother a HP Stream 13, the first one, the really blue one, which she really loved. And I brought my brother, I got him a HP Stream. I got him the smaller 11-inch one. And now I've also got the HP Stream 11 X360, which is the same sort of laptop form factor, except it's a 2-in-1. So you can do the typical screen all the way back, 360 degrees thing that the higher end HP laptops can do. And I really, really like it. I've always liked the sort of design of the HP Streams. With this generation, they've added this weird sort of line pattern on the top of it, which gives it a nice texture. On the inside, they've added lines as well, which is also very nice. The keyboard and the trackpad, I usually hate on low-cost keyboard and trackpads a lot, but the Stream 11's keyboard and trackpad are perfectly fine for the price you pay. I actually enjoy typing on the keyboard. There's no backlight or anything, since it is a low-cost device, but typing on it, I have absolutely no issues. I really enjoy the key travel, the clickiness of it. I really like it. The trackpad, less so, but it's not as bad as other low-cost laptops. I've tried things like the Dell Inspira and like the tiny ones and the gross ones. Their keyboard and trackpads are horrible, but the Stream 11s is actually really quite nice. The trackpad isn't precision, obviously. It doesn't need to be in this case. It's perfectly fine as it is. Simple. It supports gestures, which is also a nice thing to see on a low-cost laptop. The screen, 11 inches, 1366 by 768. It's probably the biggest letdown of this device. It has really large bezels, which I don't see an issue with, to be fair, but lots of people hate large bezels. I see them as kind of beneficial on a 2-in-1 anyway, because it gives you plenty of space to hold the device. But the screen itself, terrible viewing angles, colours look washed out. It's really not a nice screen.
It's probably a TFT display and IPS, right?
Possibly, I didn't look into it, but it's an awful screen. Touchscreen though, which is always a plus. I always say that touchscreen should be on every device. It's a natural thing to be doing on laptops these days, and on a device which I don't have touch, I always find I'm missing it. So even having the Stream 11 X360 is just a normal laptop, I continue to use the touch. Speakers are okay. The CPU is an Intel Celeron N3060, not high-end in any way, shape or form, but it doesn't need to be, because this device is aimed at those of you who do light web browsing, email, word processing, and maybe listening to some music. That's pretty much all this device is aimed at. It's more a consumption device rather than a workhorse, and you really kind of feel that with its 2 gigabytes of RAM. It can multitask Edge and Groove and Word absolutely fine. So if you're doing a research paper, for example, you will have no issues using this. But if you're planning to use Photoshop and other heavy things like that, don't buy a low-end laptop. You want at least a $400 one leading up to $1,000 if you want to do any real work. But as a consumption device, it works well.
How much is this device?
This is, I believe, in the UK it's £200. In the US, probably $250 or $300. So not expensive whatsoever. It's really quite cheap and perfect for those of you who just do, for those of who you know, who do light work or just watch YouTube videos, because this is one of those devices.
I'm going to tease a device I just got today, and I just turned it on a little while ago. It's updating, of course. And I don't even know how to pronounce the name. I'm just going to pronounce it Chewy, Chuwi. A Chinese brand that's doing some interesting things. We did their tablet last year, and this is called, I don't know what it's called, Lapdoc 14 or Lapbook 14 or something like that. It's a 14-inch laptop. It actually has an IPS display, so if you don't know, IPS is what you prefer. It's not like IGZO, which is the sharp stuff that's in the high-end Dells and Razors, but you want, like, ideally IPS. It gives you good viewing angles and all that stuff that Zach was complaining about. Really nice display, and it looks like a really cool device. It is one of those devices that looks better than it actually is. Not that it's bad in performance. It's also running a Celeron, although I don't think it's the same Celeron. I got to compare it to the HP Stream. Really nice keyboard so far, though. This is just like one of those devices that's just kind of like, like, how do they do this? Only 4 gigs of RAM, so no doubt it's a low-cost device. In fact, it's $300. But $300 for a 14-inch laptop with an IPS display, a little crazy. I mean, that's just like, okay, how are they doing this? But this is always, the thing with China with being able to really undercut some companies because they own the production facilities at the time. But hopefully, I'm going to do a video with that with Mark when he gets back from Mobile World Congress sometime, and we'll kind of feature that because I think it's a really interesting option. I'm kind of impressed. I mean, you're still making compromises. Like you said, no backlit keyboard. Obviously, I know some expensive devices that don't have backlit keyboards. It's just one of those things that just costs money / uses power. But, for $300, it's just like, I could see families using this kind of thing. it's actually really nice looking when you see it. So
I do. I really like low cost laptops that get it right, because so many hardware makers get low cost laptops wrong. It's either terrible, feels horrible in the hands, typing on it's horrible, the trackpad's horrible, screen. I mean, they have to obviously undercut somewhere. Usually, I prefer it if they undercut the specs, because then the outer shell is still great, and to most people, that's all that matters. To normal consumers, at least, the outside of the laptop is more important than the inside of the laptop, because most people are, like I said, browsing the web, doing email. They don't really care if it's an Intel Core i5, an i7, an Intel Celeron, or whatever. If it looks good on the outside and feels good to use, that's all that really matters for these low-cost laptops. I personally think, anyway. I know other people would prefer specs to be better at low cost, but everyone's different, obviously.
Yeah, no, it's always a hard thing, I think, for these companies to sort of balance out. I'm just impressed with an IPS display, because usually you don't start to see those until somewhat going to the higher range. But, HP and Dell have been, in my mind, if you go to the Microsoft store, there's some really good low-cost options now that are like way more impressive than you think they would be. Now, obviously, like I said, if you're coming from like a Core i7 and all this kind of stuff, you're not going to enjoy the experience. But for people who are on a budget, or just something for a kid at school, or even for that parent who just wants to check their email on the couch at night, like some of these devices are actually getting there. It's just that trickle down effect with technology, right? So pretty good stuff.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about Killer Wireless? I know this is a thing that you've been looking into.
Sure. So when I reviewed the XPS 15, one thing I dinged it for was the Killer Wireless card. Basically, there was an issue where if you were basically under a heavy bandwidth, you're downloading massive files and like browsing YouTube, the whole thing would just crash. And not the PC itself, but the Wi-Fi would crash and it had to restart. And it was a bug, and it was pretty frustrating. And I was actually kind of annoyed at it, because it's like a brand new device here, premium XPS 15. The same, and this card is the AC1535. It's found also on Razors. A lot of gaming laptops use it. The XPS 13, the new one, also uses it. So I kind of dinged Killer about that, and they reached out to me, and I had a really good hour conversation with them, where they walked me through their technology, because I didn't really know about this stuff. Now, first of all, about this bug. Turns out it's not their fault. It was actually, and we can talk to Jason Howard about this, it was actually Microsoft's fault. Apparently, and this is going to be kind of expected, right? You may have noticed Microsoft's on a very aggressive upgrade path these days. They're doing a lot of builds, and they change things quite dynamically. And sometimes their partners don't get heads up right away, or an effect that they make is not realized until after the fact. That was the case here with the Killer Wireless card. So it's nothing wrong with the card. It was nothing wrong with their drivers. Microsoft changed something on their end with the way the Windows Update works and everything, and it basically kind of broke something. That's been since fixed. Actually, it was the day that my review came out. There was a beta version of the driver from Killer that addressed the issue, and now it's gone. It's official. So you can just go and download that driver, and it's been good. Now, it's funny, because if you go read my XPS 13 review, I did actually really like the Killer card. And I noticed how, I use an example, in our office, we were in this one room where this is the frustrating consumer experience, where you basically can connect to your Wi-Fi point, your access points, but then when you go to browse, it times out. You don't actually get the connection. That's super frustrating, right? Because it's like, wait, I'm connected. I should be able to get something, even if it's slow, and you don't. The XPS 13 was the first laptop I used where not only did it connect, but the strength of the signal was strong enough that I was able to browse the web like it was just like nothing. It was, and that's why I was like, and if you go back and read that review and the video, you'll see me talking about that. And it has to do with the way Killer does their thing. So this is why I was interested in. It's like, okay, what's the difference between this and, like, say, Intel's card and all this? And so Killer has a few technologies involved. One is they put amplifiers on the actual Wi-Fi thing, so it actually boosts the signal, which is, that's what I was experiencing. So it's able to pick up weaker signals and basically make use of them. They also do this thing with app prioritization. So the AC1535 is primarily aimed at gamers. So if you're gaming on a laptop with this thing, the packets of information are going back and forth. The card sees that is it's for gaming, and then basically prioritizes that and just sends it right out. So you don't experience as much lag and connection degradation. And then it also does it by app. So something like Skype, they were telling me, is also super aggressive, and they basically prioritize that. So if you're on a Skype call, you're going to, it'll be smoother. the video frame rate will be higher, the quality of the resolution will be better, and all this kind of stuff. And what's coming in there, they're having an update that's coming out soon. You'll be able to actually prioritize your own apps. So you'll be able to actually tell, say like, oh, if I'm using Edge, give that a 1, and it's on a 6-level basis. And, that means whatever goes through Edge is going to basically get prioritized. And you can also do it for things like, streaming apps like Netflix or something like that. And you can kind of control all that stuff. And I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting just to see that they made the point, and I thought it was a good point, that they're the only company that's looking at wireless technology and saying, what can we do more with this? And they said Intel's cards are really good. They don't argue against that, but they said they come out with the technology and then they just basically do a vanilla version of it. So it works across all devices, but it's not like, it doesn't do anything unique or special. They're trying to build off of that and go, okay, how can we, make this a more performant, card? They also do this thing with double shot, they call it. Some gaming laptops come with an Ethernet port and their killer Wi-Fi. And you can actually link both of them together. And it'll double your bandwidth, basically. So you have like 2 streams coming in. And what's neat is like, it'll use the Ethernet for your gaming, but then it'll use your Wi-Fi for lesser things that aren't as important and lower priority. So they do this really smart streaming stuff, which I think is just, I don't know, it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing that they fixed it quite quickly. I know Microsoft broke something. It wasn't their fault. But it's always nice to see people like hardware makers and stuff jumping at that and going, right, oh, damn it, we need to fix it. Because more often than not, a lot of times, especially with like these lesser known brands, they'll release a device and that's it. If an update breaks in the future, oh well, it's not our problem anymore. Right. But obviously, with these they are fixing issues and stuff, which is very, very nice. We've still got about 10 minutes left. Should we talk about Jez's Windows 10 Mobile article from earlier today?
Well, I didn't read it, but yeah.
I've just been reading it now. Jez wrote an article today about why he thinks Windows 10 Mobile is still alive and a good reason to keep the faith. So his points were actually kind of make sense. For one, he believes Windows Phone isn't dead. In terms of marketability, Windows Phone might be dead in the water, but it's not for those who still use it. Obviously, the Universal Windows platform, another reason of his, is keeping the platform alive in some way with app updates and whatnot. Obviously, Microsoft is still issuing updates via the Insider program and plan on releasing 2 major updates every year, and I am pretty sure Windows 10 Mobile will also be getting the same updates that Windows 10 Desktop stuff, at least through this year, which is very nice. He also believes the community is a great reason to stick with Windows 10 Mobile. I don't know why, I'm joking. The Windows Insider community, lots of us are very lovely, some of us less so, but most of us are very lovely and opening and welcoming and kind of accepting of the mobile devices we use, which makes sense. A lot of us are Windows Phone users. And by a lot of us, I mean 1% of us. The rest of us aren't. And that's fine. There are many insiders on the program who use Android and iOS devices. In fact, most of Microsoft's employees use iPhone and Android devices. Then, of course, there's this smaller amount who also use Windows Phone and are also part of the Windows Phone community. I also think that's a very nice reason. He also thinks the Windows 10 Store is a fantastic reason why the Windows 10 mobile ecosystem is good. Because, like I said, with the Universal Windows platform and Windows 10 being universal itself, Windows Phone can kind of piggyback off app updates and developers. So, like the Twitter app, for example, Twitter built an app for Windows 10 on the desktop, and because it's a universal app, it takes little to no effort to bring it to phones. And that's why to this week, the Windows 10 mobile app got an update, because the Windows 10 desktop app didn't get all the features, such as tabs, which I don't think mobile needed anyway, but it did get other things like pinning tweets and being able to DM people directly from a tweet. All nice features and updates that I am really, really happy to see on my Lumia. And if the platform really was dead, why would we be getting these updates in the first place? It just, people saying dead, it doesn't really make sense to me. And besides, Microsoft has said it themselves, Windows 10 Mobile for enterprise, that doesn't sound like dead to me. He also thinks the interface, which is, I think everybody agrees, the Windows 10 Mobile interface, or the Windows Phone start screen at least, is the best home experience on any mobile platform on the market right now. I believe it. I believe even Android and iOS users believe it as well. The tile UI is lovely. It's really, you can design it in any way you want. People come up with super creative and awesome designs that make so much sense, or sometimes they don't make any sense at all. Live tiles, when they work, are very reliable, and I prefer them over gadgets or, like app badges and stuff. Lots, just very interactive and sort of, it's a lot more beautiful, and I think everybody agrees with that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I agree with most of his, in fact, all of his points. I do keep the faith in Windows 10 Mobile. I still using my Windows 10 Mobile. Dan is still using his, I believe. I don't see any reason to not be currently. I know lots of people are like hating on Windows 10 Mobile and stuff, but who cares? It's you do baby.
Yeah, I mean, there is this whole thing with like, we're not saying, and make this clear distinction, we're not saying, go ditch your iPhone and get the latest Windows phone because it's better. That's not the case at all. And if you need some apps, and like, I know a lot of people are like, I need this banking app, I need this social app, and it's just on Windows 10 Mobile, then that's the end of the story for you, right? I mean, it's not like, no, just make do with it. Like, I totally get, when people have needs and the platform doesn't fulfill them, but there's definitely a difference. I mean, BlackBerry is an interesting example, right? So they had their own operating system with BB10, which was a reboot, and they basically gave up on that. So now they're making Android devices with some BlackBerry flavor, and there's a new, high-profile device that's coming out here at Mobile World Congress. And it's a good example, I would think, because like if you look at the BlackBerry audience, again, super dedicated. They're like the TrackPoint users of Lenovo. They're just like this hardcore group that just refuse to give up on it, and they're just fans of it. And BlackBerry's trying, I'm not trying to, slam on BlackBerry. I think they're a very interesting company, and I kind of, root for them. I think it's unfortunate they have to go down the Android path because they lose, I think, a lot of their sort of unique, flavor, what made BlackBerry. But they're doing their own little twist here and there. Mostly their differentiation now is coming around with having a keyboard on a device, which, that's something they're still known for. So, why not work it? But, it's going to be still hard to be like, I have the BlackBerry Priv. I was not impressed by it at all. I think I used it for about 4 days. But they're doing some interesting things. But Windows 10 Mobile, it's like one of those things. It's like if you like it and it works for you, that's fine, Mm-hmm. Clearly, Microsoft's in a weird stage right now with their mobile plans. We know some of what's happening. If you're curious, listen to the last podcast, episode 37. We talk a lot about where some of this is, where we think it's going. But that doesn't mean, and I always make this case too. I mean, just because even we talk about like even future hardware for Microsoft doesn't mean it's going to work. There's a difference between explaining something and saying, here's what they're doing, what they're trying to do, and going, it's going to be amazing, it's going to crush everything. We're not saying that latter. We're just saying they're going down a different path, and it's, I still like Windows 10 Mobile. I pick up my 950, and I'm still liking this device, It's not perfect. I wish the 950 could get an update. I wish I could put like an 820 in there, maybe improve the display a little bit. But I don't know. It's gonna be a next, for next year. It's gonna be kind of fun.
I don't know what it is, but a lot of people hate it when we write about Windows 10 Mobile positively. I don't know why. It is a personal preference of ours to use Windows 10 Mobile.
I know why. Because it's tribalism. It's the same explanation for everything else that's stupid in this world. Because humans are the naked ape who thinks that they're smarter than they really are, and it's super frustrating. But when you're not on someone's team, they don't get it, and they're like, how could you still be happy with that experience? It's terrible. Join us. Join our team.
But
that's all it comes out to.
Here's the thing. I'm able to pick up an Android or an iPhone and go, right, this device gets lots of things right, more so than my Windows Phone. Yet I still go back to Windows Phone. I still say positive things about iOS. I wrote an entire article about moving to the iPhone as a Microsoft user, and that was praised quite well on Windows Central. Most of the comments were very positive. And I don't see why it wouldn't be, because I can accept the fact that iOS gets a lot of it right and is a much more popular platform and does lots of things correct. But I'm still a Windows phone user. I still prefer my Lumia over my iPhone, even with its slow 808 processor and whatever else and bugs and whatnot. I still prefer it, and people hate us for that. And I've noticed it more this week, more than ever. It's funny. I really do think it's hilarious. And a lot of people think it's wrong of us to say Windows 10 Mobile isn't dead, whereas I think it's wrong to say it is dead. Symbian OS is dead.
Yes.
WebOS is dead. You can't call Windows 10 Mobile dead if it's still in active development and getting app updates. I don't care if there's no hardware being released with it. That's not what we're saying. The hardware side of it, dead is anything, if you want to say. Lumia's dead. It's in the ground somewhere. Sure. But Windows 10 Mobile isn't dead. And it just isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't.
And especially since we'll tease a little bit here, but we've seen some things that show it's definitely not dead. And I don't know. This is all I'll say about what Microsoft's kind of doing with mobile, at least what we've seen in the last few days. They're super ambitious. The stuff they're doing is like kind of crazy. And it's this sort of spinning in the wind kind of thing, right? It's the same, 99% of Windows Phone users or smartphone users are not Windows Phone. It's just like, why continue making a mobile play here? But what they're doing still, it's just like, when you see it, it's like, no one else is doing what they're attempting to do. I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm not saying in 10 years, it'll be reversed. I'm just saying that it's interesting. They still have a ton of work to do. Some of it we've seen, which is that the overall improved experience, which I think is still an issue for people, which is like, the OS still feels a little bit slower than it should be. It's not as responsive. And we've seen some things which seem to address that and go a long way in addressing, I'd say, a lot of complaints that people have had with Windows 10 Mobile. But this is definitely an ongoing project. I mean, this is going to be like, I don't know what, like in a year from now, what we're going to be talking about in terms of how this thing's evolved. I have some ideas, but it's just like, they're doing a lot with it. It's going to be interesting. It's just not another smartphone OS. That's all you need to know. It's like, it's just...
It's Windows
project. Yeah,
it's Windows 10. It is. At the end of the day, it's Windows 10. And I think I know you've said this with Resident 2, and it ended up being entirely false. But I think Resident 3 is going to be a big update for Windows 10 Mobile. Mark my words. I'm saying it here. If I'm wrong in October this year, then you can call me out for it. But I think there will be some updates on the way for mobile for Resident 3.
Yeah, I mean, well, what seems like it's like the My People thing. That stuff that we were expecting in RS2 did get pushed back, and this is. We've talked about this endlessly before. The problem with either leaking features that are supposedly coming, and we're guilty of that. We leak features that we see on roadmaps and things that they have planned and, rough mock-ups. And then they go, oh, we're going to have to push that back. And even Microsoft has this problem when they go official with it. They went official with the My People thing. Hey, this is coming. And then, a couple months later, we can't do it this release. So it's a tough problem. We're trying to, a lot of times when we leak stuff, we're just doing it almost just to be like, hey, this thing has still got a heartbeat and it's still pretty crazy. But I don't know. Well, we'll be talking about more in a couple of weeks, probably, what's going on with some of the mobile stuff. But it's really kind of fascinating.
Anyway, yeah, I think that's time, if I'm honest. I guess the TLDR is Windows 10 Mobile isn't dead, in my opinion.
The hardware is dead.
The hardware is dead.
And speaking of, we're actually, if you're listening to this live, Mobile World Congress is about to kick off. We have some team there for Mobile World Congress, so pay attention for that, for even some new laptops and tablets that are coming out. Samsung will have a few new things, but we are still not expecting anything for phone there. And I think, we've talked about this last week, where there's going to be this shift, it looks like, from, what we have Windows 10 Mobile on 32-bit ARM to this Windows 10 on ARM for 64-bit for the fall. And so I think you're seeing some companies rightly not releasing new hardware because this thing is going to be kind of shifting. That's at least what we're anticipating, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
The future is bright. Soon, as Microsoft often say. Very soon.
Yes. So that wraps it up for this week. Now we're going to do some Q&A in our chat room for the live broadcast. Sorry if you're listening to this as syndication, but you can join us on Fridays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time for the live broadcast of this. Otherwise, you can listen to it anytime on your favorite podcast app. Also join us on Thursdays where we do our Microsoft Gaming and Libations, where we all chill out and play some games. I'm not sure what's on tap for this week. Are we doing Halo Wars 2 again this week?
No idea. I think we'll be doing GTA.
Oh boy, that should be fun.
Yeah.
I have my gun behind me. Yes, so people notice the gun behind me. That's actually a life-size replica of the Lancer from Gears of War 4, which I thought was pretty awesome. So, but yeah, so follow me on Twitter, Daniel_Rubino. It's Rubino, and you can follow Zach at ZACBOWDEN. On Twitter and ask us questions on occasion. Don't ask us about Surface Phone. And that does it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Take care, buddy.
59 minutes.
Perfect.
One day, my goal is to have a podcast that's exactly 1 hour long.
I mean, we could have stretched it out.
We could have, but I didn't think of it till just now. Oh well, next time.